It's mutual, the mutual respect
Absolutely.
and love of society right here. Thank you. And more importantly, thank you for everything you do on the ground. I mean, so many people, I mean, I knew that you tell the truth the way it needs to be told, but a lot of people during this time of crisis have been
Yes.
exposed to you and understand that, I mean, you really are for the people. This is
I
called We
am
the People.
absolutely,
This is
absolutely.
you all day long. So thank you for all the work and all the inspiration, all the words, everything that you're adding to this conversation, and more importantly to this action. With that said, we have to say goodbye, but we don't have to get out of here just yet because I'm gonna toss this on to my brother
Okay.
Van Jules, who can take it from here.
Jamel and I, we spent the past hour, we've been talking to Killer Mike, we've been talking to Elaine Welteroth. We also got a chance to see that amazing video from Lil Baby. Jamel, what did you get from your conversation with Killer Mike? And more importantly to me, what do you make of this moment that we're in?
The one thing you can always expect from Killer Mike is blunt honesty. I think that's why a lot of people look at him as a really credible voice right now. He's honest about what he knows and honest about what he doesn't know. So I think when you have those elements, that's going to always make for a pretty good conversation. I'm with you. I mean, this moment at the same time is welcome. It's also a little bit surreal in terms of what took us so long to get here, to make sure that we're not always starting from ground zero every time we have to have a significant conversation about race in this country.
Why do you think it's different this time? Because I mean, there have been videos before, and yet people still now act like they're shocked. Help me understand what's different this time from your point of view. What's your theory?
It's two things that I think stood out about the George Floyd video. One, there was no yeah, but. And granted, in my mind, we've seen videos where there was no yeah, but people nevertheless invented a yeah, but. But in this one, there really wasn't one, even if you were Stretch Armstrong trying to stretch and find one, there just wasn't one. What always has just stuck with me is the look on this officer's face as he was kneeling on George Floyd's neck. It was so cold. It was as if this were Thursday. And he showed such little emotion, remorse, any emotion you want to name. He didn't show any of that as he killed a man in the middle of the street with bystanders looking on. So I think that situation, coupled with the fact we had already been reeling from Ahmaud Arbery, we had already been reeling from Breonna Taylor. And even though the situation wasn't fatal, there was definitely a storm of frustration at what happened with Christian Cooper. So this all together leads us to this moment where finally, even the most adamant naysayers who wanted to pretend as if this wasn't a structural problem, what could they say? There was nothing else that could be said. And I think everybody who was already fed up decided now is the moment, now is the time. The world has slowed down because of COVID-19. If we are going to address this, this needs to happen now.
I've never seen 20, 30 million white people asking black people for leadership. That's interesting because they start, well, what do you want me to do? And I'm like, well, I don't know. Google is a powerful tool. I don't know. I'm realizing now, though, that this is an honest question. How do you think that we as African Americans and our allies can rise to meet a moment like this and actually accept the fact that we may actually have a couple million new allies? And how do we deal with that? That's new for us.
I'm glad you used the word leadership, because there's a difference between us being put in a leadership position and us being put in an educational position. The educational part, we're long past, right? Like we don't want to be educating anybody else about race. We're not here to soothe you. We're not here to make you feel better. But leadership is something different. And it looks different depending on how you want us to take that leadership. Certainly, we are accustomed to being a voice on these issues. We're accustomed to setting the agenda. It's fine if we continue to lead in that direction. I think what we're looking for is, if this were, a relay race, we want to pass the baton, and we want you to be able to say, okay, here's what we've been feeling about this issue. Here's what needs to happen to change it. The other part of this race is that you got to be willing to run it just as hard and as fast as we are. Because if you're not, that's why we remain stuck in the flying pattern that we've been in for hundreds of years and decades as we've tried to reconcile this issue. So we have to figure out what is the most useful way of allyship. We see a lot of people throwing statements around. We see a lot of people throwing money around. We need that to be a focused effort, and more importantly, to be vocal about it. I can't. I can't take any more double-sidedness. There can be no more other-siderisms, if I may make up a word, meaning that you give over here and you're a company that is like, yeah, Black Lives Matter, except for in my boardroom where they don't, or except for in my organizational chart where they don't. So I'm done with that, right? That's great. Charity's great. Charity doesn't change structural racism, right? What changes it is when you actively look in your building and ask, why aren't there more Black people in this building, in this boardroom, in this C-suite? So the allies that we have, what you can do, change the structure and cultures of your companies, of your businesses, of wherever it is you have influence. Start there.
The thing I try to tell people is, it puts us in a no-win situation. I want our white sisters and brothers to be better educated and to care more, but I don't want to have to bear the burden of trying to teach and educate all the time. The reason you pay tuition is because it's costly to educate someone. You coming up to me and saying, educate me, that's costly to me emotionally and from a time point of view. Also, I think we have to be very honest. Nobody would go up to somebody and say, teach me Russian in 5 minutes. And by the way, make me feel good about it. But I mean, you wait, hold on a second. Like, you want me to teach you about racism, which is the history of race in America is just as complicated as Russian. And you want me to teach you that in 5 minutes. And also, if I make you feel bad about it in any way, now I got to be your therapist too. And like you said, soothe you or whatever. That's got to stop. I would love for somebody to come to me and say, I made my whole family watch the 13th and read The New Jim Crow and read White Fragility. And we had a question on page 52. Now, hey, we can have that conversation all day long because you're doing your homework, but don't flop on me like you never heard of Google. If you wanted to know about cryptocurrencies or whatever, you find that stuff out before any Black person ever heard of it. So I'm sure you can educate yourself about anything you want to know. I have to say something to you because I've never gotten a chance to talk to you. I feel like I know you because I'm such a big, mad, crazy Stan and fan. But I love you to death. I just am so proud of you. I'm saying proud of you almost as Patrick. I am so proud that you exist. Where do you find the strength to continue to do what you're doing and say what you're saying, even in the face of opposition, to the point where now the whole world has to listen to you? Where did you find the strength when they weren't listening?
I guess maybe this is just part of the Black woman's condition, is that we don't know any other way. And most of us, I come from a line of Black women who were just like this. My mother's like this. My grandmother was like this, where it's the old phrase we've all used as Black people, making a way out of no way. And scream until they hear you. You know what I'm saying? Is that because the opposite, to do the opposite of that is that I can't even afford to do that. I don't know any other mode but to fight for what's right, but to try to stand on the right side of history, but to speak for people who don't have a voice or a platform as large as mine, because somebody did it for me.
What advice do you have for people who want to have these conversations, maybe not as well spoken, not as well read as you might be, but who really are sincere and want to have a conversation?
I think you have to start from a point of honesty and being real about what some of your beliefs, prejudice, biases are, where they come from, why you learned them. I think if you take anything else beyond race, as we get older, we do a whole lot of unlearning. Young folks, when you get to like your 30s, you do a whole lot of that, right? But my advice is to always start from the point of truth and honesty and self-awareness. And you'd be surprised what you can get accomplished just by digging into those things. I mean, if you come from a racist background, or if you come from where race was talking about a certain way, be honest about what those conversations were and what they taught you. And ask yourself, is this the kind of person that you really want to be?
Yeah, I feel like there's a 21st century mindset and a 21st century skill set that, everybody's going to need a mindset of empathy. I mean, we're going to be dealing with people, every color, flavor, every kind of human being ever born. We all have to deal with each other now because of the internet, because of just the world economy. You're going to be competing against people in China and Nigeria. That's just the world. So you have to have a mindset of empathy to really try to understand where people are coming from. You have to have a skill set of listening. If you understand this conversation, you can talk to black folk and brown folk and Muslims, everybody else. So we're trying to confer a benefit to you. We're trying to make you better. It'll make my life better, but it'll make your life better too. Now, what charity are you supporting?
Well, as some people can maybe see my T-shirt, it says "Support Black Journalists." Right, the lack of still Black journalists in most newsrooms is pretty appalling. What changed my life and what got me really on the right path in this business was being a member of the National Association of Black Journalists. NABJ is the largest minority journalism organization in the country. The development, the networking, job fair, internships, scholarships, what happens there has changed lives. It changed a lot of people's careers. I mean, people like you, Van, and everybody you want to think of, Roland Martin, Soledad O'Brien. It's just a number of people, Michael Wilbon, that are a part of this organization and have been able to build legacies there. And so it's on us to, again, usher in this next generation of young journalists who, I get it right now, feeling really discouraged when they look at not just what a lot of newsrooms look like, a lot of networks look like, but also we're under the under the shadow of a pandemic right now. So there's a lot of journalists who have lost their jobs. A lot of companies are downsizing. They need a reason to believe and to be in this business. And so NABJ has done so much for my career and continues to do that for others. So that's the charity that I support and the organization that has changed my life and that of many others.
Well, listen, I second that, third that, and fourth that. NABJ is a beautiful organization. I've got groups I want to support as well. But what I want to say to you is just thank you for your light, for your leadership, for your courage, for your entrepreneurship, for your T-shirts and all that type of stuff. Make sure to support the sister businesses, and let's keep this conversation going. Much love to you.
Thank you, Van. This is a pleasure.
I got good news for you. I got bad news for you. The good news is that people are activating all around the world, all across the planet for change. That is a powerful moment. Here's the bad news. Unfortunately, this is not a one answer fixes everything situation. We're talking about systemic problems, which means it's not just one law or one person. You need 360 degrees of change to shift to get the outcome that's right. But we can get there if we keep talking, if we keep working, if we keep building. And if we do that, we can reshape America. That can be done. It's been done in the past. We can move the whole world in a better direction. So I hope that your cell phone right now is full of screenshots of these tools that we've been trying to give you to continue taking action from this virtual town hall. When the stream ends, the conversation should not end. We got to keep pushing. We got to keep going. We are in an important moment in history. And what you do is going to determine the outcome. 2020 is going to be talked about for 20 years, 100 years, maybe 1,000 years. But the future's not written. It's up to what you and I do and what you and I decide is going to happen. So I want to give a special thanks powerful voices that we've had: Elaine Welteroth, Killer Mike, Jamel Hill. Make sure you visit 50percentpledge.org to learn more about the power of money. Also visit my organization, reformalliance.com. We're trying to make a change. Let's be about it, not just talk about it. I'm Van Jones.